Melaḳim Aleph chapter 22. And they continued 3 years without fighting between Aram and Israel. And it came to be in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, came down to the sovereign of Israel. And the sovereign of Israel said to his servants, Do you know that Ramoth in Gilead is ours, and we are keeping silent from taking it out of the hand of the sovereign of Aram? And he said to Jehoshaphat, Do you go with me to battle at Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Israel, I am as you are, my people is your people, my horses as your horses. And Jehoshaphat said to the sovereign of Israel, Please, first inquire for the word of Yahweh. And the sovereign of Israel gathered the prophets, about 400 men, and said to them, Do I go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do I refrain? And they said, Go up, for Yahweh does give it into the hand of the sovereign. And Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of Yahweh besides, that we might inquire of him? And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, There is still one man, Michaehu, son of Yimlah, to inquire of Yahweh by him. But I hate him, because he does not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the sovereign say so. So the sovereign of Israel called an officer and said, Bring Michaehu, son of Yimlah, at once. And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, were sitting, each on his throne, dressed in their robes, at a threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Shomeron. And all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Tzidkiyahu, son of Kenaanah, had made horns of iron for himself, and said, Thus said Yahweh, With these you push the Arameans until they are destroyed. And all the prophets who were prophesying so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for Yahweh shall give it into the hand of the sovereign. And the messenger who had gone to call Michaehu spoke to him, saying, See now, the words of the prophets with one mouth are good towards the sovereign. Please, let your word be like the word of one of them, and you shall speak good. And Michaehu said, As Yahweh lives, whatever Yahweh says to me, that I speak. And he came to the sovereign, and the sovereign said to him, Michaehu, do we go against Ramoth Gilead to battle, or do we refrain? And he answered him, Go and prosper, for Yahweh shall give it into the hand of the sovereign. And the sovereign said to him, How many times have I made you swear that you do not speak to me, except the truth, in the name of Yahweh? So he said, I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains as sheep that have no shepherd. And Yahweh said, These have no master. Let everyone return to his house in peace. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Have I not said to you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? Then he said, Therefore hear the word of Yahweh. I saw Yahweh sitting on his throne, and all the host of the heavens standing by him, on his right and on his left. And Yahweh said, Who shall entice Achav to go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And this one said this, and another said that. And a spirit came forward and stood before Yahweh and said, Let me entice him. And Yahweh said to him, In what way? And he said, I shall go out and be a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Entice him, and also prevail. Go out and do so. And now, see, Yahweh has put a spirit of falsehood in the mouth of all these prophets of yours, and Yahweh has spoken evil concerning you. And Tzidkiyahu, son of Kenaanah, came near and struck Michaehu on the cheek, and said, Where did the spirit of Yahweh pass over from me to speak to you? And Michaehu said, Look, you shall see on that day, when you go into an inner room to hide. And the sovereign of Israel said, Take Michaehu and return him to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, son of the sovereign, and say, Thus said the sovereign, Put this one in prison, and feed him with bread of affliction and water of affliction, until I come in peace. And Michaehu said, If you ever return in peace, Yahweh has not spoken by me. And he said, Hear, all you people. And the sovereign of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the sovereign of Yehudah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the sovereign of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Let me disguise myself and go into battle, but you put on your robes. So the sovereign of Israel disguised himself and went into battle. And the sovereign of Aram had commanded the 32 commanders of his chariots, saying, Fight with no one, small or great, but only with the sovereign of Israel. And it came to be, when the commanders of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, Indeed, it is the sovereign of Israel. So they turned aside to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. And it came to be, when the commanders of the chariots saw that it was not the sovereign of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. And a man drew a bow in his simplicity, and struck the sovereign of Israel between the joints of his armor. And he said to the driver of his chariot, Turn around and take me out of the battle, for I am wounded. And the battle increased that day, And the sovereign was propped up in his chariot facing the Arameans, and died at evening. And the blood ran out from the wound onto the floor of the chariot. And as the sun was going down, a shout passed through the camp, saying, Each to his city, and each to his land. So the sovereign died, and was brought to Shomeron, and they buried the sovereign in Shomeron. And when the chariot was washed at a pool in Shomeron, the dogs licked up his blood, where the whores bathed, according to the word of Yahweh which he had spoken. And the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory house which he built, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Achazyahu his son reigned in his place. And Jehoshaphat son of Asa began to reign over Yehudah in the 4th year of Ahab sovereign of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became sovereign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azuvah, the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in all the ways of his father Asa. He did not turn aside from them, doing what was right in the eyes of Yahweh. Only the high places were not taken away, for the people slaughtered and burned incense on the high places. And Jehoshaphat made peace with the sovereign of Israel. And the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, and the might that he showed, and how he fought, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Yehudah? And the rest of the cult prostitutes who remained in the days of his father Asa, he cleared out from the land. And there was then no sovereign in Edom, a deputy was sovereign. Jehoshaphat made Tarshish ships to go to Ophir for gold. However, they did not go, for the ships were wrecked at Etzion Geber. Then Achazyahu son of Ahab said to Jehoshaphat, Let my servants go with your servants in the ships. But Jehoshaphat would not. So Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Jehoram his son reigned in his place. Achazyahu son of Ahab began to reign over Israel in Shomeron in the 17th year of Jehoshaphat sovereign of Yehudah, and reigned 2 years over Israel, and did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and walked in the way of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Yarovam son of Nevat, who had made Israel sin, and served Baal, and bowed himself to it, and provoked Yahweh Elohim of Israel, according to all that his father had done.